let's talk about how we can use different strategies to handle critical reading. Now that we're clear about the fact that critical reading is a process of reading that goes beyond just understanding a text, we'd like to discuss about how to develop critical reading skills. Generally speaking, critical reading involves carefully considering and evaluating the reading text, identifying the reading's strengths and implications, identifying the reading's weaknesses and flaws, looking at the big picture and decide how the reading fits into the greater academic context. In brief, you're actively responding to the reading. Critical reading often involves asking questions about the reading. In particular, you are examining the strengths and weaknesses of the reading's argument. To do this, you need to consider the reading's background, its purpose and overall conclusion, or we could say claim, the evidence used in the reading, the logical connections between the claim and the evidence, the reading's balance, the reading's limitations, how it relates to other sources and research, and also if the reading is based on research, how this research was conducted. Let's examine them one by one. Let's look at background in the first place. Before you consider the argument of a reading, you should build up a background picture of the reading. You may ask, who is the author? While you cannot evaluate an argument based solely on the qualifications of the author, their background can give you an indication of credibility or potential bias. You may also ask, are they a recognized academic expert or a new researcher? Do they work for a university, the government, an organization, or a commercial interest? You may also ask what type of source it is. As with the author, the type of reading can give you an idea of potential bias and the quality or applicability of the information. Is this an academic source? Is it a book, a periodical article, or from a website? Is it trying to convince you of something or sell something? Also, you may ask questions like, who is the audience? The reading may be organized and written differently or have different goals depending on the intended audience. Is it aimed at academics and researchers? Is it aimed at people in the industry or the general public? Some other questions like when was it written also could be asked here. Up-to-date information is more useful. Something that was believed to be true in 1982 may have been disproved or improved since then. After looking at the background of the reading, we will examine the purpose of the reading text. Getting the big picture of the reading is essential so that you can see how all the pieces fit together. The first question you may ask, what is the main claim of the reading? The main claim or argument of the reading is the point that is trying to be proved. The claim of the reading is often a single statement, the thesis statement. This is often found in the abstract, the introduction, and the conclusion of the article. You may ask questions like, is the main conclusion clear? Does the evidence lead to the conclusion? The second question you may ask about purpose would be, what are the implications of the claim? It is useful to think about the consequences and applications of argument, as this may uncover particular strengths or further flaws. You may ask, are the applications practical or meaningful? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the application? What are the costs and benefits of these applications? And the third question you may ask would be, how is the reading structured? The structure of the reading will give you an idea of what points are most important and which points support the conclusion. You may spend some time looking at the headings, the subheadings, tables, the introduction, and it may be useful to draw a map or diagram of the reading structure. Let's move on to the third part, evidence. It is essential to consider the quality of the evidence in the reading, as this directly relates to the usefulness of the reading. You may ask questions like this. Is the evidence fact, research, opinion, or personal experience? Is the evidence accurate? Is the evidence relevant to the conclusion? Is the theory appropriate for this topic? And the next part is also very important for you to consider, which is methodology. If this reading is based on any kind of research, for example, a survey, an experiment, or a case study, it is important to consider how this research was conducted, as this can affect the validity of the findings reported. You may ask questions like this. Is the research qualitative or quantitative? What was the range or sample size of the research? Is the research falsifiable? Is the research repeatable? Are there better methods? And the next part you will want to examine about this reading would be logic. When reading critically, it is important to examine the chain of reasoning used by the author, as any gaps or problems can undermine the validity of the conclusion. The questions could be, are key terms defined in this article? Or does the logic flow? Does every point follow on from the last point? If there is a gap between two ideas, this could be a leap of faith that undermines the overall conclusion. You could also ask questions like, are there any flaws in the reasoning? Is the reasoning logically sound? Some arguments are weak because they rely on faulty logic. They are often referred to as logical fallacies. Let's move on to the next part, which is called balance. In order to read critically, you have to consider whether this argument is appropriately balanced, looking at the issue or problem from relevant perspectives. Questions like this could be asked. Do you have questions that are not answered in this reading? Is the reading biased? What other perspectives are there on the issue? Did the reading present a counter-argument? Here comes the next part, which is limitations of the reading. Questions like this could be asked. What does the argument assume? Some readings will identify their assumptions. This is so that if an assumption is later proven false, it is clear whether the argument is still correct or not. Does the reading make assumptions that it does not identify? Hidden assumptions may weaken the argument. And also you could ask questions like, what are the limitations of the theory? Some theories or principles only apply in certain situations. If a theory is applied outside of those situations, it may weaken this argument. And the next part would be other sources. No reading exists in isolation. You must consider how the reading fits into the big picture of the larger academic context. Questions like this could be asked. How does this reading relate to other readings? If the reading disagrees with something from other readings, your textbook or the lecturer, it may be incorrect. It may also be a controversial or debatable argument, or this reading may be discussing the argument from a different perspective. And also you may ask, Are there completing theories with better explanations for the evidence? When there is more than one way to explain evidence, you must carefully evaluate the plausibility of each explanation. You may also ask, is there more up-to-date research that could disagree with the findings or improve upon them? Knowledge is developed in academia by improving on or disproving previous findings. So you should consider whether the reading has the most up-to-date understanding of the topic.